Welcome to episode 3 of JGE Talks, hosted by myself, Lee Johnston. And today we have Peter Turner on the show. Pete, as I know you, welcome to JGE Talks. It's a pleasure to finally have you here. You're not the easiest person to book into a podcast, so I am very honoured to have you here. So thank you for joining me. How are you?
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here, and I'm really, really well, thank you.
Good. Excited?
Very excited. I've got no idea what you've got on that phone to ask me, so let's find out.
So you are partner, senior executive coach, speaker for To Be Limitless. Is that right? Did I do a good job
correct.
there?
Okay,
yeah,
thank you.
Perfect. Okay,
yeah.
well we're gonna dig into that a little bit deeper. We, I guess, connected initially via the community, the To Be Limitless community, which is an incredible community, and that's the work that you do and the business. If we go from the start, as we always do in the show, in terms of how you actually got to Dubai, what brought you here?
Actually, it was my wife that brought me here.
Okay.
She was working in Saudi Arabia.
Nice.
I was working as a teacher in the UK. She had a role that was bringing her out to Saudi every 2 weeks on, 2 weeks off. I'd always had a bit of an idea about maybe moving out into this direction as well, so it was complementary for us in our relationship. And then she just thought, well, in order for her to take her career to the next level, she really needs to be in the region. So we both moved out to Dubai. Okay. She carried on commuting to Riyadh backwards and forwards, as many people do when they live here. And then it became the beginning of what a lot of people experience when they come to Dubai, which is a transformation.
Yes.
And you've obviously gone through one of those as well, and I definitely have. And there's so many people within the To Be Limitless community who were one thing at one point. They came to Dubai and then they had this incredible transformation. That's definitely been a part of our story as well.
Okay. So how long have you been here now in Dubai?
10 years now.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. Which feels in my mind like a long time. We were just chatting outside, and the number's getting longer and longer when you speak to people, isn't it? It's 15 years, it's 20 years, and for some people their entire adult lives, or their entire lives, they were educated out here. Yeah. So the number's getting longer.
So 10 years. And so you were a teacher in the UK. Did you then go into teaching when you came out here, or is that when the transition as such started?
Yeah, the transition had already started in my head and in terms of my training and education, but my pathway into Dubai was through schools initially. And then the moment I got here, I began that transition. I actually studied at Middlesex University. They've got a campus in Dubai. I was doing an applied psychology degree in the evenings while Susan was jetting off to Saudi, and I had nothing to do in the evenings. I was spending 3 nights a week in the evenings down at Middlesex doing my degree, and then a whole sequence of different training programs that I was doing. And then it took me a couple of years to then make a full go into the executive coaching world. Yeah.
So was that always the plan when you were doing these classes in the evening and studying? Was it you wanted to be a coach, or did you not necessarily have that fixed idea at the time?
Yeah, it's an interesting one, particularly in executive coaching or corporate training, because it's actually quite a difficult career to describe what it is that you do. And at the time, I knew I had a vague idea of what this thing was, but I didn't really understand the specifics or the details of it, but I knew there was something that I was aiming at, and a big part of that transition was to invest in my own learning and my own growth, but then also to find out what it's all about by experiencing executive coaching. So I actually sought out who I thought was going to be who's the best in the region in the world of executive coaching. I asked everybody that I knew. I did all the Google searches, and the same name kept coming up. And that name was a guy called Mick Todd, who's this unbelievable Australian who many people who are listening to this may know. He has gone on to become just an absolute megastar in the world of executive coaching. And I just thought to myself, I need to get close to this guy and figure out what it is that he's doing. And then he's like a meteorite. And I just thought, I just need to get in behind him. Yeah. And it was an unbelievable education, not just from the learning that I was getting through participating in the sessions with him, but also getting to see on the other side of the table and really to study a master in their craft. Yeah. And actually that ended up turning into a really powerful and complementary relationship. I became an associate of To Be Limitless, then I became an employee of To Be Limitless, and then I became a partner in the business.
Nice.
And now it's rock and roll.
Here we are. Yeah. So there's a couple of things there. So you mentioned at first sort of studying for the future or the role, so to speak, and then also meeting somebody who, in your opinion, and by the sounds of it, a lot of other opinions, was at the top of the game. Right. Is that a difference between, I guess, doing the theory side and then actually the practical, so kind of shadowing and working with somebody like as you did? Was that something that really made a difference? Maybe you'd learnt it from a theory side in the studying, and then it was actually now you seeing how it comes into action, and did that have a big impact on you?
Yeah, there's probably a couple of pieces to that really. How do you turn, because we kind of deal in the sort of the business of ideas, psychology is what's often called a soft science, and even selling coaching is quite interesting because you're sort of selling the invisible.
Yes.
How do you describe the impact that you're making? So there is that side of it, and then the other part of it is the commercial side of it, and there are so many. Actually, there's loads of fantastic coaches out there in the world who are just brilliant to be around, and they make a real difference, and they open up great space. But then, how do you turn that into a commercial offering? It's actually quite a difficult thing to do. And Mick had really, he often uses the language of he was in a coaching business, and now he's in the business of coaching.
Okay.
And I think that was a big part of the education, especially for me from an education background.
Mm-hmm.
The world of education can be quite insular. It can be a little bit of a bubble, and what's on the other side of that bubble can be sometimes a scary thing for people in industries like that. So that was so important to see, how does it manifest itself? What does it actually look like in the real world, where it can turn into a viable commercial opportunity as well? Yeah.
So you mentioned it before. So the obvious question is, you said it's quite tough to explain at times, but what is executive coaching? How can we best define that to anybody that hasn't experienced it before, or maybe doesn't know too much about it?
Yeah, I mean, the word executive really means in the workplace, working with leaders. And the word coaching really is a synonym for a few other words, really, but it's a synonym for learning. It's a synonym for growth. Typically, people will come to coaching for one of three things: either change, clarity, or growth. And quite often at the beginning of a relationship, I'll say, look, here's three words. Which of these is resonating with you the most? Change, clarity, or growth. The other thing about coaching is that, and there's lots of different ways of helping people, but at its core, it's non-advisory. And a lot of people find that really difficult to understand. Somebody said to me, well, what are they paying for then if you're not giving them any advice? But what we know about learning, and if you've, people out who are listening to this, if you've got children in schools at the moment, what we know about learning is that teachers are not pouring knowledge into the children's heads anymore. And it's actually very difficult to be a thought leader in the 21st century. You've got access to any knowledge that you want. So it really is about helping people close the gap between what they know and how they behave. A good analogy for that is, let's say you want to improve the quality of your health and your well-being. There is nothing that anybody can tell you. And by the way, just a caveat there are obviously experts in diet and nutrition and fitness, so I get that.
Disclaimer going in there.
Yeah, little disclaimer. But there's probably not a huge amount that you need to be told about how to improve the quality of your health. Make a better choice in the supermarket, move your body a little bit more, pretty obvious. But why don't we do it? What's the gap between what you know and how you behave? And that's where advice really falls down. And coaching, where you're opening up a space for people to take ownership over their own self-awareness and their own decisions. Coaching fills that gap between what people already know and how they go and behave in the world.
And is it difficult to get people on board from the start? So I guess going back to our first interaction, which was when I was looking for a coach myself, and I reached out, and I remember our meeting in a very nice hotel, and we had a nice coffee, and I think probably when I was looking at this, I was expecting and probably wanting advice. I wanted to sit down and you to tell me, do this, do that, and everything will be okay. And of course is different. Now I very much came to understand and learn what it's all about, and completely agree that actually helping, almost allowing me to make the decisions, right, and take myself there with your support and your questions, etc. Do you find it a challenge at the start of a relationship to get people on board, or the people that come to you are like, I know what it is and I'm ready for it?
It is a challenge. I mean, it's both. The answer is both. There'll be some people who are experienced coachees. They know exactly how to use the coach, and they're obviously great fun to work with because they turn up, they grab hold of the session, they know exactly what it is they want to focus on, and they really know how to use you as a resource. But the overwhelming determining factor of the effectiveness of coaching very simply comes down to the readiness of the client and the readiness of the coachee. Like, if they really want it to work, and you were a classic example of somebody who was great fun to coach, because you weren't 100% sure what it was when you came to coaching, but you knew you wanted more, and you were so ready. And I've known you for a long time now. You've always invested in your own personal and professional development. You've been performing on the one hand, but you're always exploring how you can keep getting better. And so a lot of the work at the very beginning of a relationship is to build the readiness of the client, so that a little anecdote around that is, sometimes at the beginning of the relationship, the client will say to me, well, Pete, can you send me your CV? Show me your level of experience. Tell me about some of the impact that you've made, and show me your qualifications. And my answer to that is, I'll do all of that for you. I'll send you my bio. You can read through it. You can connect with all of my clients and ask them stories about the work that we've done. But to be honest, none of that really matters. All that matters is how ready you are for this. If you want this to be effective, it'll be brilliant. If you're not 100% ready, then it probably won't be. So it really is coaching is a reflection of the readiness of the client.
Yeah. So to be limitless. Sorry, tell us a little bit more about To Be Limitless as an organisation. I know you're doing a lot of work locally, but globally as well, if I'm not mistaken.
We're a relatively small business in terms of the numbers of people. We've got a fairly small headquartered team based in Dubai, of 9 full-time team members, and then we've got a group of associate coaches who are dotted around the world. So we've got Gareth in South Africa, Tony in New Zealand, Jack in Bangkok, Melda in Singapore. We've got Olga and Kieran and Vicky and David in Dubai. We've got Patrick and Ian in London. So we've got these coaches dotted around the world who are to be limitless through and through. Everything that they do is to be limitless. And we're just very, very lucky that we just get to work with these incredible people. Coaching has suffered. There's been a stigma attached to coaching in the past, where coaching is what sort of failing teams and organizations invest in, and that has completely flipped. And now it's like, coaching's for high performing people who want to keep getting better, and the kind of teams and people, I just use you as an example, who invest in coaching are already high performing people that know that if they want to keep getting better, they've got to keep figuring out how to keep getting better. So that's the nature of the people that we work with. So multinational organizations, many of which you will have heard of, who have got offices around the world, and we work with them at the individual and the team and the organizational level. And a lot of our work is around helping leaders lead more effectively, so they can look after themselves better, get the best out of their people. We have lots of expertise in a variety of psychometric assessment tools around emotional intelligence, strengths-based psychology, employee engagement surveys, executive presence 360s, and I'll sum it up by saying that the All Blacks have got a lovely quote: if you develop the person, the player will emerge. And that's what we're doing around the world, just developing people so they can go and be better players.
Nice, I love that. We should save that quote somewhere. You touched on there the strength side of things. Now, again, going back to our first interaction, and I remember how it sort of flowed, and I suppose, again, I was probably there going, I want you to tell me what I'm doing wrong, what I'm not good at, and I want to make that better and fix that. That's not really the route we went down, and because of the testing that you mentioned as well. So tell me a little bit more about the focus on strengths as opposed to weaknesses, I suppose.
At the absolute core of what we do, and I get goosebumps when I think about it, because it was such a big part of my transformation. I remember sitting in front of Mick Todd after a 15-year career as a teacher, and sitting in front of him saying, look, I want to take myself to the next level. I'm not sure how to. I want to finally fix my weaknesses. And he just looked at me and he went, we are not going to do any of that. If you want to get yourself to the next level, we need to get really serious about your strengths and identify your strengths as your greatest opportunity for development. Most people, most leaders, most organizations have learning and development programs where they separate people's strengths from their areas for development. They even call your weaknesses your greatest opportunity for development. Actually, your greatest opportunity for development are your strengths. So a massive part of the work that we do, regardless of the brief, at the very beginning is this examination and investigation into what is right with individuals, teams, and organizations. The very first question I ask anybody is, tell me about you at your best. What's the best day at work? Oh, it's a beautiful question. And you can see people suddenly go, I was ready to have the opposite conversation.
Yes, yeah.
But tell me about you at your best. What's the best day at work you have ever had? How can we help you have more of those days? And it's a much more inspiring, but also a much more effective way of helping people grow, because contrary to popular belief, we actually grow more and faster when we develop our strengths than when we mess around with our weaknesses. So we don't ignore our weaknesses. Absolutely not. We have a much more open and honest and strategic conversation about how we manage those parts of ourselves. But if you want to take yourself to the next level, get serious about your strengths.
Yeah, and it's fascinating to kind of have been part of that, because it was a very much a flipping the switch from what I expected and what I was, I suppose, used to. But it's a process, right? So you so you go through that initial, I guess, fact finding to find out what are your strengths, and then you will put in you will then work around those the core strengths and make them even better. And it doesn't mean that there's not necessarily, we talk about the balcony in the basement, right? There's, I don't want to say negative, but there's a lesser implication to that strength, but it's working out, okay, well, how do I get that improved, sort of thing as well. So it's fascinating.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, just sitting here, I can even remember your strengths, and that's what it does. It gives you a common language to describe you at your best. And a lot of people, when you ask them about their strengths, they're quite vague. They'll say sort of general comments like, I'm a good people person. But there could be a million ways of being good with people. So, and you just mentioned the word basements and balconies. The cliche goes that your greatest strengths are your greatest weaknesses, and it is actually the case. So the balcony is when your strengths are creating value, and the basement is when your strengths get in the way and diminish value. So
nice. We won't give all the secrets away yet, but it's definitely good to touch on it. To Be Limitless, when I think of To Be now, and again, I've been part of the community, I guess, for a while since we worked together, and actually went and did the kind of the coaching course myself, which was a fascinating program, and not with the mindset, maybe it was to some extent, of becoming a coach, but it was about being able to then ask better questions, and that I would say that has helped me from a parental perspective. So now understanding how, instead of giving my daughter the answer, which is always the easy thing to do, the quickest thing to do, it's not necessarily the best. It's asking her a question so that she can find the answer herself. It's the same in the job, and asking questions to clients and potential clients, and it's amazing what that can do. So it was really good to be a part of that. Now, when I think about To Be Limitless, one of the first words that comes to mind is community. Is that something that has purposely been built, or it's just kind of been come off the back of you building a very good business?
I was actually going to say, you've used the word community quite a few times. We're allergic to the word network.
Yes.
Absolutely allergic to it. And network's about taking value, turning up to an event, telling everybody what your job is, exchanging business cards. And actually, community is about coming in and creating values. And our expectation of anybody that comes into the To Be Limitless community is to come with a contribution mindset. Of course, when everybody comes in with a mindset like that, everybody's going to take so much value anyway. But as a byproduct of the leading value there of creating and contribution, and that's what community does. And I loved what you said, and it's such a hallmark of what you do and what's different about what you're doing in this space. Coaching, I said it's a synonym for other words. It's a synonym for emotional intelligence, and our questions are only as good as our listening. And I do 30-minute keynotes just on how to listen more effectively. Just you creating the space for me and asking me these questions is helping me understand my own business and say it out loud and organize my thoughts. And it's a gift, isn't it, to open up a doorway for somebody and open up some space, ask them some questions, listen, and follow up with a few more questions rather than just jump in and start advising straight away. And it is. It's interesting, actually, because again, I think this is what coaching has certainly taught me, is that you're asking questions, and I can to some extent almost see you then thinking about what you're saying about the business, and it's almost like, actually, we can do that, and that's what it is, and it's almost giving you permission to speak freely, and then, actually, I've just thought something there, and you've done that yourself. That was nothing to do with me. You did it. You found it, or vice versa, when you were asking me all the questions, and I found the answers myself. So it is a great space.
So in terms of we've talked about the community there, let's look at Jumeirah Golf Estates as a community. Now you are a resident of Jumeirah Golf Estates. You don't have to tell anybody exactly where you live, but you've been in the community now for 3 years, 4 years?
2.5 years.
Okay.
2.5 years.
Yeah.
I think, yeah.
And was that always where you wanted to be, or did you just drive up there accidentally and that was it? You became a resident?
Do you know what? We were so lucky. So lucky. I mean, it wasn't really on the radar.
Okay.
You know, I just didn't understand it. And it just kind of came out of the blue for us, and we really think it was going to be an option for us. And then somebody suggested, hey, why don't you try having a look up there? And I thought, okay, I'll have a little look. And I'd spent time there before because I love playing golf. And then we had a look around and we thought, God, this place is really nice. Really nice. It felt like it had all the best bits of Dubai, but also felt like I just stepped into a little bit of Europe as well. Definitely. I kind of had a little bit of a different vibe, and it just completely opened my mind. And the moment we had a good look around, we went, well, this is where we're going to be. 100%, this is where we're going to be. But the other reason why I hesitated and said I got so lucky is that even after we said this is where we've got to be, we still had no idea how much better it was going to get.
Really?
So the golf buggy part of it, for example, we thought that was going to be a little bit of a gimmick.
Yeah.
It's got a golf buggy. Yeah, nice selling point, guys. Yeah, you can't win me over with that. Oh my goodness. That is
Never
a
off the thing.
complete lifestyle transformer. There are 5 incredible F&B places up there. There's loads of other little nooks and crannies. There's 2 little shopping malls and with play areas for the kids. There's so much going on. There's lovely ponds and little parks everywhere. And we can very easily spend a whole weekend and not get in the car, and my 4-year-old son can jump in the back of the buggy, which he absolutely loves, and we just go for a drive around and we go and explore the community. And that part of it is just amazing. And as I said, the F&B, which are all different and constantly getting better. I cannot believe our luck. And I will also share that we were very lucky to get in there when the prices had that sort of COVID dip, and now we just pinch ourselves, absolutely pinch ourselves.
So it's obviously easy for us to, both of us, because we know it so well now, talk about the community now, but I guess at the time, by the sounds of it, you didn't really know about the buggy lifestyle and the restaurants, and you probably played golf there before, but what at that point then attracted you? Was it like the style of the properties as such? Was it that feel that you mentioned of maybe feeling a bit of Europe, UK sort of thing? Or
it was that. Driving around the communities, I thought, wow, they had gone into so much additional detail in that community, which I don't see a lot of around Dubai. And it was just completely different. All the little cul-de-sacs wrapping around the corner. They've even got like little changes in elevation, which they didn't have to put in there, but they put them in there. The detailing around the house, which they didn't have to do, but they did. The size of the properties as well, like the square footage is really impressive, and also the greenery everywhere. Like I'm inside the house and I'm looking out the window and it's just green everywhere. And like I said, again, goosebump moment, just so lucky. I'm so lucky that we live there. And the prices have gone through the roof, and I keep getting phone calls to sell it, but I just, where else would we go? I wouldn't want to be anywhere else.
Have to try and find a good real estate broker, that's the thing.
I know. But on that note, I just feel like we've got this incredible asset now that at some point is going to be so valuable to our family and also our future, and just, as you know, just driving around, it just keeps getting better. It keeps getting better, and there's still so much room for improvement. So many other properties are being developed. People really care about their properties out there, so they're making them beautiful. The infrastructure and the roads around the edges is constantly getting better. So it just keeps getting more desirable.
Yeah, we discuss this a lot. It is a place that is getting better and better. 5-10 years ago, people would say, oh, so far away, and it wasn't. But people weren't maybe used to driving as far now. But it's also, Dubai's got a lot bigger, and JGE is now actually very conveniently placed. And I think you touched on it as well. A lot of people, you don't need to leave, right? You're there at the weekend. You've got your buggy. You've got 5 restaurants, 2 golf courses, everything you need. Why drive out onto the roads and sit in traffic? And
the gym, the gym up at the top. That's getting...
You obviously use the gym.
Use it all the time. Yeah. That's a great quality gym. The swimming pool's incredible. 2 pools for your athletes and for fun. And many of the houses have got pools in the garden as well. it's just an absolute dream. I remember it described to me as it's like a holiday camp, but it is that, but it is also a homely community, and all you have to do is just scoot around and you're just waving and smiling at friends and your kids' friends' parents, and it's lovely.
Yeah, and you mentioned before you have a little boy, 4. He's 4 now. It's crazy, isn't it? It's crazy.
Absolutely crazy.
Time has
guy.
flown by. Yeah. So JGE and Dubai as a place for a family, how's that?
I mean, do you know what the first thought that came into my mind when you said that was Halloween? Halloween last year. The effort that the community that I was in went into around their houses was absolutely extraordinary. Golf buggies driving around everywhere, all these houses lit up. It was, I couldn't believe it. And there's all the little lovely friendships that are being developed with their next door neighbours, and it's so safe around that community. And it really, like we said, the community, how many times have we said the word community? All the time. It's full of lovely people and of people growing their families around each other. It's amazing for children. That little boy has no idea how lucky he is, and it's just the most incredible place to spend time.
No, I would agree. And just on that point, so you also mentioned earlier on about your lovely wife, Susan, who is also very successful in the career. She's actually the Turner that we wanted to get on the podcast, but she wasn't available, so hopefully she will be at some point. But the balance between 2 very busy working parents and having a 4-year-old son, how do you find that? And then I guess the next question, how do you manage that?
I think it's a really good question. I think it's something that needs to be talked about a lot more. We actually hosted an event a while ago and had a couple talking about the same thing. I think there's a lot of examples of families where both people are working and both people are striving, and there's lots of different ways as to how you choose to set your life up. So I use that word deliberately, that to have 2 people striving for their careers, and sometimes almost a sort of an unspoken competition, between the careers. And Susan's traveling at the moment. She's in Saudi, as she is often, and so then that puts a pressure on me, and then suddenly I'll be traveling, and then puts pressure on her. But I think getting really, really organised, even to the point where we have one of the best decisions I've ever made is having an assistant to support our family life. I know it sounds a little bit decadent, but it's just been so useful. Managing a household and school, and that's a whole world in itself. And managing each other's calendars, that's a full-time job. And having an external person to support us with that, who can see both of our diaries, can manage around the logistics of the house, that has been an absolute game changer for us. And I think it's saved an awful lot of arguments and friction in the Turner household. So we can both go and try and pursue our careers whilst also being very cognizant of the fact that the first 5 years of a child's life are extremely formative, and we want to make sure that we're as there for him, because all he wants is to spend time with us. So we're actually pretty good at managing that, actually, not mainly because of the support that we have from that assistant who is just incredible for us, who saves us a lot of frustration.
No, it's good. It's a key point, isn't it? Like you say, organisation, and 2 very busy people, but then of course you want to, and I know you do give a lot of time to the family as well, right, and each other. So it's definitely important to have that. And if we look at, I guess, flipping it back to you individually, I know, look, I think you are successful, and you might not admit that, but I know you're also striving, right? You probably still think you've got a long way to go, and there's a lot more in mind. What would you say, if we look at maybe like the key tips to the success that you've had so far with To Be Limitless from an individual kind of business perspective? What are the real key points for anybody that is in Dubai now, or maybe looking to make the move and wants to be successful in whatever they decide to do?
Yeah, well, I mean, obviously, how you define success is an interesting one. For me, it is just the thing that I can say that would allow me to sit comfortably with that word is that I absolutely love what I do. I feel like I'm one of the lucky ones. We do a lot of employee engagement surveys, and the stats of employee engagement are fairly low. Anything between 15 and 20% of employees are actively engaged in their jobs. They really love it. A lot of people are kind of turning up for the paycheck. In fairness, the engagement rates are a little bit higher in this region than they are in other parts of the world. So really finding the flow of, and getting into the flow of what it is you do, where you spend most of your time, that is just the most important thing. And we talked about strengths earlier on, and I describe strengths as they're your traits, they're your personality traits. And if you can somehow really understand what the flow of your traits are, and then try to get into a space where you're swimming with that flow of your traits, all of a sudden it doesn't feel like hard work anymore. We differentiate between working hard and hard work. Like, I work really, really hard, but it doesn't feel like hard work. I love it. I would do it all day, every day if I could. I absolutely love it. So really, and that's the essence of coaching, is developing self-awareness to understand yourself well enough that you know what those dispositional traits are, those patterns of behavior that you have, that when you get into that flow, you feel energized and fulfilled. And when you're not in that flow, you get burned out really, really quickly. You get de-energized, and it's not a very happy place to be. So that's
I love that, the flow state. And if you can, and I see you, and we've worked together, and that's the feeling that I got as well from our work together, is that like, you're loving this, like you are flowing, that's you at your best. And of course, and that has an impact on your coachee, right, as well, the person that you're working with, because they're feeling that, then it's a good experience all around. And it's ups and downs and tough moments within coaching, of course, but when you have that feeling, so it's a great tip. And I guess also for anybody that kind of struggles to find that, coaching is actually a good way to find your flow, right, and to find these areas that you can thrive in.
Yeah, I mean, coaching is about, a large part of coaching is about self-awareness, and that's where the advisory piece can really fall down, because you know yourself better than anybody else does, and a coach really plays the role of a mirror. And also, there are some great tools that a coach can leverage to help somebody accelerate that self-awareness, and for us, it's strength psychometrics. But I think it is also important to recognise that there's a lot of coaches in the world, and accreditation is really, really important. And like, ethics in coaching is absolutely paramount. You're having conversations with people about the most important thing in their lives. So do no harm. Doing the right, being competent and being ethical is really, really important. And that's really important at To Be Limitless. So all of our coaches have gone through International Coaching Federation certified training. They're members of all of the accreditation bodies, and all of that stuff is just really, really important, so that you are working with somebody who's credible and knows what they're doing.
Nice. So if anybody wants to reach out to you, which I'm sure they will after hearing your valuable insight today, are you a social media person? I know you've got your assistant that is the great point of contact, so maybe we'll put her details in the link below. Can they connect on LinkedIn? Is that a good place to start, perhaps?
Yeah, LinkedIn. That's where I spend most of my time. It looks like I spend most of my time on LinkedIn. So Peter Charles Turner on LinkedIn. Perfect. You can find me there. And tobelimitless.com is our website. And we are definitely people about town. So
or possibly in the gym, or botter or boater, as we had an argument before what it's called. But you're also a visible part of the community, right, as well. So now that you're out there, you might get a few more people asking questions while you're there. So.
Yeah, I spend a lot of my time sat in botter. Sat in botter. I've spent an inordinate amount of money on their cappuccinos.
They are good.
They are. That's money well spent, because it's just a great space. So so that's where you can find us.
Okay, perfect. Quick fire questions, Pete. The serious stuff is over now, so you can relax. Just a little bit of fun to finish. You are a golfer, which we've not really discussed golf, which is unlike us, isn't it? Because normally every time we meet and talk, we talk about golf. A few other things, of course, but earth course or fire course?
Controversial. Controversial. The earth is obviously the
main one.
It's the main one.
In theory, yeah.
I love the fire course.
Yeah, I knew you were going to say that.
I'm something tells me a lot of people say so. I absolutely love it.
Yeah.
I love the layout. That I think it's the third hole where you're stood up high and you're hitting. There's a lot of hitting up.
Yes.
On the earth, isn't there? There's a lot of hitting down on the fire, and you can see the fairway just sort of roll out and tumble out beneath you. And I love that. It just looks pleasing to the eye.
Okay.
And maybe I've got a fond memory. I think you might have been there actually. when I chipped in for a 2 on the.
Maybe we
on the
might have run
first
out of
par
time.
four.
I'm not sure, to be honest, but yeah. No, it was a great eagle that you made on the first hole of the fire course, so it probably does help to give you fondness. So that's actually 2 votes to 1 for fire course so far, interestingly enough. Castori or Brasola?
If you base it just on how much time I spend in either, it's Brasola.
Okay.
Special occasions when the wind is blowing through that open top area.
Yeah. Oh, you're
That
selling it now.
That Indian experience up there is just absolutely beautiful.
Nice. Okay, you've kind of gone with both, but that's fine. Crafty or tap and grill?
I'm going to go with Tap. Yeah, I love the stakes. I love the live music. I don't know his name, but he's up there a lot. I love the tunes that he plays. And again, it's outside. You can sit outside all of them, but whenever we have guests, if we want to treat them,
barbecue,
exactly,
music,
100%.
Yeah, it's a nice spot, isn't it? When the weather's right, of course.
Just love it. Yeah.
And we didn't really talk too much about this, but I'm going to ask you: golf or hockey?
Wow, you've just. I mean, yeah, hockey was my first love. That was kind of my thing. I took it very, very seriously for a long time, and my ankles and knees and hips remind me of it every day. Do you know what? You've asked me such a good question there. You can see it's written all over my face. You've absolutely scrambled my brain by asking me that question. Oh, we need another half an hour to unlock that. Wow. Golf.
Okay. Buy or rent when we come to talk about property?
Life's about making the right choices at the right time, isn't it? And there's both and is my answer to everything. Is both and. You know, there's always an opportunity to do both, and you try and make the best strategic decision that you can at the time. We've got a few properties in our lives. Susan and I have really focused on property as an enabler for our futures. So if you were to pay attention to our behaviours, we're buyers.
On the buy route.
We bought quite a few. I've never sold a property in my life.
Nice.
But we've bought several.
Perfect. Yeah. And then I know sometimes you spend a little bit of time at the L's Club, which is fine. You know, it's near JGE. So JG all L's.
They offer something different. Different. Yeah. I mean, JGE's it's special, isn't it?
Yes.
It's really, really special. We do have a really fond relationship with the L's Club, and there's a very lovely local atmosphere at the L's Club, and our business spends a lot of time up there, and you know what Tom's done up at the club has just been absolutely incredible, and they create a lovely feeling. It's always very well known for being in beautiful condition. So I do spend a lot of time at the L's Club, and I coach up there a lot. JGE is my home,
of course,
it's where I live, and I'm so proud of living there as well.
Yeah.
And you drive up every now and then. I'll take the buggy and I'll drive up the pathway on the 18th, and you come around that corner, and the clubhouse starts to come into view, and I say, I can't believe I live here. And then I'll deliberately drive underneath the waterfall, which I'm sure that Stephen Hubner will probably tell me I'm not allowed to do in my resident golf buggy.
No, but it's nice to hear, because it's I guess a grateful moment when you think like that, right? And
how important is that you know, you're in the busy life, you're getting frustrated, and then every now and then Susan and I, we've got a little saying where we'll go, we live here.
Yeah,
we live here, and important to remember that.
Well, that is almost like we planned. That's a great way to finish a Jumeirah Golf Estates focused podcast, mate. Yeah. So well done, and it's been a pleasure as always talking to you. So thank you very much. I do appreciate your time. As I said at the start, not easy getting you here, because you are very busy, and did have to work with your very good assistant to get you here, and we coordinated it perfectly. So thank you again, mate. I do really appreciate it, and hopefully again there will be people reaching out to you from this. I think you are an incredible coach. I've had great experience in the community that 2B Limitless have built as well. There's literally incredible individuals within that are all very helpful and will do a lot for other people without asking, which, as you said at the start, is the difference with community. And I think you guys do have to take a lot of credit for that as well. But thank you, mate. It's been very enjoyable. So
and thank you very much. And just absolutely love what you're doing, and just really changing the shape of engaging with the property market out here. You guys create. We didn't talk about the word trust enough, but you guys create a really feeling a feeling of trust and genuine care for other people with what you guys are doing, and that's the reason why I'm here today to support you guys. It's incredible.
Amazing. Appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.